We'll wait for 5 minutes. Thank you.
So let's start. So hello, good morning, and welcome to the meetup of modern web development with Blazor. Here with you, I'm Bhavika, Sardhara, host of this meetup. Along with me, my co-host is Shaily. So let's get hello from her.
Hello guys, here is Shaily. I am working in a Yudiz Solutions Limited as a .NET developer.
Let me introduce our speakers. So Tanvi and Vijay Kumavat will conduct today's meetup. On behalf of us and Team Yudiz, we are heartily welcoming you. So let's discuss our today's agenda. So today our speaker will start the meetup of Blazor from the scratch. So first we'll start with the Blazor overview. Next we will move to the start with the Blazor of Basic of Blazor, and then after we will create one demo project in Blazor. Also we will discuss every little and important topics of Blazor, like data binding and how to communicate with other pages and the life cycle of the event and etc. So stay tuned with us, and we will also view all the little things with example. Our speaker will show you the big demo example of every topic, and later on we will drop a link of one place into message box. So don't forget to please and test yourself as well. And last but not least, question answer. If you have any question, then you can drop your question in message box. Also, you can unmute yourself and ask. In last, we will discuss all the questions and the answer. So let me hand over this session to Tanvi Kalola. So Tanvi, over to you.
Hello. Thank you, Bhavika. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I am Tanvi Kalola, .NET developer at Yudiz Solutions Limited. So at first, we are starting with Blazor overview. So in Blazor overview, our first topic is what is Blazor. So let's start. Anyone have idea about Blazor? Okay. So Blazor is a free and open source web framework that enables developers to create web application using C# and HTML. Blazor is developed by Microsoft. Blazor is single page application development framework. So here we have question that what is single page application? So single page application loads only one time, and then after body part updated via JavaScript. In single page application, refresh never occurs, and it is less costly than multi-page application. Okay, so there are 5 editions of Blazor application. So here first is Blazor server, and second is Blazor WebAssembly. So these two are majorly used. So we will discuss these two topics later in details. Now move to next, Blazor PWA. So PWA stands for Progressive Web Application. PWA is single page application, and we can use it as a desktop as well as mobile application. And we all are using YouTube, right? So YouTube supports PWA. So we can use YouTube as desktop application. So after that, we don't need to go to Google and search YouTube. We can directly access it from desktop. So what is advantages of PWA? So it is most faster than application because it install in local and we can directly access it from desktop. So we also don't need third-party application. And for mobile application, we don't need to download it from Play Store. Okay, hope you can understand PWA. Now, next is Blazor Hybrid. So at first, I will give you one example of Blazor Hybrid. Like if you want to create one website, one Android application and one iOS application for the same project. So what will we do? Anyone have an answer? So you can unmute yourself and give answer. So we are doing same code for that three different platforms. So overcome this problem, we can use Blazor Hybrid. Blazor Hybrid is a combination of web native application and .NET platform. For Blazor Hybrid, we must build and deploy code in each targeted platform. So next is Blazor Native. So it's built the functionality of native users interface for each and every native framework or platform. But Blazor Native is currently in planning stage. So hope you have idea about what is Blazor. Now, next is in this picture, you can see that from below, Blazor Native, Blazor Hybrid, and Blazor PWA is used for desktop as well as mobile application. And Blazor WebAssembly and Blazor Server is used for web implementation. In this picture, we can see that here two parts. First is markup and second is C# portion. This is Razor component. In a markup part, we will do HTML code, we will bind values, and this part will display on your site. And this is logical part. So in @ code part, we will declare variables, we will create methods, and all logical implementations are done in this part. So next is why we use Blazor. So using Blazor, we can run our application in any browser, including mobile, and write code in C# instead of JavaScript. So Blazor solves one of the big challenge that many web programmers are strong in C#, but they are not comfortable with front-end framework and specifically JavaScript. So in Blazor, we can use our own libraries and almost all Nugget packages. And in other frameworks like Angular and React, we must have knowledge about JavaScript. So here Blazor create difference. Okay, so let's start with the basic of Blazor. So our first topic is Blazor architecture. So Blazor is web front-end framework similar to Angular or React. It's not based on request reply model. Blazor is based on application component model. Blazor apps consist of one or more root components and that are rendered on HTML page. So here you can see the architecture of Blazor. Here component is Razor page in which we are doing markup and C# portions. So we will discuss component in details later. So now components are reusable. Like if we want to use some functionality many times in our project, so we can make common component for that and we can use it from different pages when we need. So each component have their own idea and their own stage. So in this picture, there is the interaction flow between component and DOM. So in this Blazor, if any changes is needed, then Blazor renders the updated component, and the component can't directly change the DOM. They send changes to Blazor and Blazor track changes. If it is different from old UI, then Blazor update the DOM. Okay. So hope you can understand. Now, Blazor server and Blazor WebAssembly. So anyone have idea about Blazor server and Blazor WebAssembly? So you can unmute yourself. Okay, so we are starting with Blazor server. So Blazor server is hosting model and it's executed on server. In Blazor server, UI updates, event handling, and JavaScript calls are handled using SignalR connection. Now, these are the advantages and disadvantages of Blazor server. So, Blazor server is more secure than Blazor WebAssembly because it's executed on server, and Blazor server is less time consuming. And disadvantages of Blazor server. So Blazor server needs internet connection. There is no offline support, and Blazor server also need SignalR connection. So these are the disadvantages of Blazor server. Now, Blazor WebAssembly. So Blazor WebAssembly is single page application, and earlier we discussed about PWA. So we can also create PWA using Blazor WebAssembly. It works in all modern browsers, including mobile. So these are the advantages of Blazor WebAssembly. It supports offline, and it's run in all modern browsers. And for Blazor WebAssembly, no plugins are required. Now, these are the disadvantages of Blazor WebAssembly. Like here, first time it is more time consuming because it's load everything in browser. So it is also less secure. And if your application is running on old browser, which does not have support for Blazor WebAssembly, so in that case, our application is not working. Okay. So anyone have doubts on this topic? So they can ask. Okay. So now we are creating demo of Blazor WebAssembly and Blazor server. So you can understand folder structure of both and difference between their folder structure. So I am going to Visual Studio and create new project. Here in search, Blazor server, and next project name, Blazor server. You can give path here, and next here you can select framework. I am selecting .NET 6 and create. So here in Solution Explorer, you can see that program.cs, appsetting.json, app.razor, imports.razor, and shared pages, data, folders, and root folder. So we are starting with program.cs. So this is the entry point of our project. So if we run our project, program.cs will executed first. So in program.cs, it contains startup logic, it contains dependencies, middlewares, and we can also add services. So next is appsetting.json. So it only create in web server project, and we can provide configurations over here. Then app.razor. So the root component of the application that set up client-side routing using router component. Then imports.razor. So we can add namespaces and common razor directives in imports.razor. in shared folder, here you can see main layout, main layout, nav menu, and you can add also other Razor components. In pages, in pages you can add Razor components, and it is at the red page directive you can give path. So here first is host.cshtml. So this is the root page. When any page of application is initially requested, then this page is rendered and return response. Then next is layout cshtml. So in this we can add HTML references, CSS reference. We can add script tag, and these are the Razor pages. So you can add your Razor component, and in this we are doing logical implementation, and here you can use markup language. Here you can use event handling. You can bind values. Now in data folder, it is only exist in server application, and we can create class and models in data folder. Next is root folder. So it contains CSS, JavaScript, static images, and style sheets. You can see CSS. You can add your CSS and JavaScript folders in root. Okay. So now we are creating a demo of Blazor WebAssembly. So here create new project, then search. So here we can choose Blazor WebAssembly app, and next. Here you can give name, and you can give path over here, and selecting framework, and you can also create a progressive web application using WebAssembly and create. So these are this is same as Blazor server. So we are not discuss it again. We are see only difference. So here app setting.json is not created. It's only created in Blazor server application. In pages, there is no CSHTML page. In Blazor web application, we can use index.razor, and data folder is also not created. And in root folder, here index.html. So it is works as layout.cshtml. In this, we are adding CSS reference. We are creating, we are adding script tag, and also give links. So it is work as CSHTML, same as Blazor server. So hope you understand. So anyone have any doubts? Okay, so done from my side.
Hello.
Yes.
What is the difference between WebAssembly and जो आप पहले जो बोला ना इसके पहले web server? Yes.
Okay. So from audience, anyone have answer? Okay. So Blazor server is a hosting model. We already discussed that Blazor server is executed on server, and Blazor WebAssembly is a single page application. So Blazor server, Blazor WebAssembly, we can use for client side implementation, and we can use Blazor server from for use creating the admin panel. Okay.
Hello.
Yes. Okay. Anyone have any doubts? Okay. So done from my side. I hope you understand basics of Blazor. Now, other topics are covered by Vijay. So thank you everyone, and hand over to Vijay.
Hello everyone. Good morning. My name is Kumavat Vijay and I am working as a .NET developer at Yudiz Solution Limited. Now we know about Blazor. Okay. So we covered the data binding, routing, component and Blazor lifecycle, and also covered the event callback. Now we start the data binding. First, data binding is one of the most powerful feature of software development technology. Data binding is connection bridge between view and the logical business logic of the application. And we have a three-way of doing data binding with Blazor. First is one-way data binding, second is two-way data binding, and third is event data binding. So data binding is connection bridge between HTML, Razor, and C# code. It is connected with each other. Like we have some HTML part, we have some Razor part, and we have some C# part, like that. Now go to the data binding flow. In this snippet, we have a event or user action. Event like if I click the any button, then after event will be triggered and value will be update, and then after new value will be rendered into view part. Now let's go ahead with one-way data binding. So one-way data binding is we can use the address symbol in view part. It's called one-way data binding. One-way data binding is straightforward. You can see the snippet here. In snippet, we add the address symbol with a variable. Now let's see the demo part. We have a demo project here. In page folder, in data binding folder, here is the one-way data binding Razor page. Now let's see the code first. Here is the variable with initialized value, is one-way data binding. In view part, we have a one variable with at the rate symbol. It's called one-way data binding. Okay. Now let's see the output of one-way data binding. Go to the one-way data binding page. Now, one-way data binding is the static code, and the test one-way data binding is the value of variable. But we have some limitation with one-way data binding. We can pass the data only to view part. Okay, it's only one way. So anyone have a solution? Okay, so the solution is two-way data binding with bind attribute. So let's go with two-way data binding. So first, what is two-way data binding? We can use the bind attribute with in the view part. It's called two-way data binding. Blazor support string, integer, boolean, date type for two-way data binding. We have a snippet here. In this snippet, we add the bind keyword in view part. It's called two-way data binding. Now let's see the demo of two-way data binding. I go to two-way data binding Razor page. In this Razor page, we have a function block here. In this function block, we have a two variable. First is name and second is try. In view part, we have a two input element. First is text and second is checkbox with a bind keyword with his variable. Now we go to output. Here is the two-way data binding page. enter your name here. Like I enter the name Vijay. Okay. Then we get the name in summary part. Okay. Same for checkbox. If I check it, we can get the yes or no in summary part. But here's some limitation with two-way data binding. Like I change the name with VK1. Then after I focus out from this element, and then after we get the name in summary part like that. Okay. So anyone have a solution for this problem? Okay. Now let's go ahead. The solution is event binding. Okay. We can use the event keyword and we can use the event type in view part. It's called event data binding. Here is we have a snippet here. In this snippet, we have a event type on click with a function. We use the address symbol with among function. It's called event data binding. Now let's see the demo part. Here is the event data binding page. In this page, we have a one function block. In function block, we have one function with a write line. In view part, we have a two button with event type on click with specific function. Okay. Now let's see the output of event binding. First, we solve the two-way data binding limitation. Okay. So go to the two-way data binding. Then after I enter the keyword in here, bind, then after event keyword. Then after I enter the event type on input. Okay. Here is the event keyword and here is the on input, it's event type. Now let's rerun the project. Now I change the name like VK1. Then we can get the name in summary part. Okay. Now we have another example of event binding. So let's see the output first. Go to event data binding. I open the console. If I click the event data binding example, function will be triggered and we get the text message in console box. Button click. Okay. Same for inline event binding. If I click the inline event binding button, then inline function will be triggered and we get the text message in console. Inline button click. Now let's go ahead. Here is one snippet. In this snippet, we have one variable title. So first, title is one-way data binding. Bind equal to title is two-way data binding syntax, and bind equal to title. Then after bind, comma, event keyword equal to on input, its event type. It is the event binding syntax. Now let's go ahead. So we covered the data binding. Now routing. Routing is the most important part of Blazor. A route is URL pattern and routing is pattern matching process that monitoring the request and determine what to do with each request. So routing is the URL pattern and that monitoring the request. Blazor server app use ASP.NET Core endpoint routing using map Blazor Hub extension method of endpoint routing. ASP.NET Core is start to accept the incoming connection for Blazor component. The Blazor client app provide the client-side routing. The route is configured in Blazor client app in app.cs.html file. So we must add the routing configure in Blazor app. Like that, we have some snippet here. Route app assembly. We can must add this syntax in Blazor client app, and map Blazor hub extension method we must add in Blazor server app. In next slide, we have a page directive. Using page directive, page directive, we can define the routing in Blazor component. Okay, the page directive are internally convert into route attribute when template is compiled. Here is we have a address page, then after slash, then after route keyword. It is the syntax of routing. In this snippet, we have some example of routing. Let's see the demo part. I go to route folder, then after routing. Here is the page directive keyword, then after slash, and then after route name. In view part, let's see the output first. I go to routing page. Here is the routing page. Here is some example, test1, test2, and test3. Test1 for address page, then after slash, and test1 route name. Same for test2 and test3, address page, slash test2 and slash test3. Now I click the test1, then I redirect to test1. You can see in URL part, URL will be changed with slash test1. Same for that test2 and test3. Now let's go ahead. In Blazor, component can have multiple route. If we use required, that component can random from multiple route value. We need to define all route with multiple address page directive. Address page, then after slash, and then after route name. Okay. Now let's see the demo part. Here we have already one routing. Now I add the another routing 1 like that, and now I rerun the project. Go to the routing. Now I change the URL with routing 1. So anyone guess the output? Okay, I enter the and we get the same output of routing page. Now let's go ahead. Route may have a parameter, and parameter defined using curly braces. It is case insensitive. Okay. Now let's see the demo of parameter routing. Here is page directive keyword, then after slash, and then after route keyword, then after slash, and the parameter must define with curly braces. Name. In code block, we have a variable with parameter attribute. It is must define parameter attribute. Okay. Now I run the project and let's see the output. You can see that in URL part slash and vk, it is the parameter value. Now I change with vk1. Okay. We get the vk1 name in parameter routing page. Okay. Now let's move to next slide. We covered the data binding and routing. Let's see the component part. A component is self-contained chunk of user interface, such a page, dialog, or form. Blazor applications are created using component which are flexible, lightweight, and can be nested, reused, and shared between projects. So component is user interface with page, dialog, or form like that. A component is base element of the Blazor application. Every page is considered as a component in Blazor. It uses the combination of Razor HTML and C# code as a component. Now, component class, a component in Blazor end up as a class including both the HTML markup to render along with the processing logic need to inject data or respond to UI element. Like we can add the component with another component class. Here is one snippet. Here is one snippet. In this snippet, we have another component like counter. In this component, it is the index component. Now let's see the demo part. Here is the demo of component razor page. Okay. In this component, we have another component with counter, and the counter have different view part and different logical part also. Now let's see the demo. Now let's see the output. Go to demo of component. Hello world and component is it is the index razor page part, and the counter, then after current counter, it is the counter component. We can use the more than one component in another component also. Blazor component are implemented in CS HTML file using a combination of C# and HTML markup. Component members of component class are defined in a address function block, and you can use more than one address function block in a component. Now let's see the demo.
Can we excuse me?
Okay. Hello.
Can we like in traditional ASPX pages we were having .cs file separate? Can we have that thing in Blazor?
Okay. Anyone have an idea?
Are we having that?
Okay. Tell me.
Hello. Hello. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, you can write a .cs file, and also this have a code section where you can write your C# code, but you can also create other C# files for accessing your API calls or other services. So yes, you can do.
No, I'm asking about like moving this @code part in CS file, so that we can like segregate page like design logic and
like
this logic differently.
Yes, we can create helper files, but we need to call here. So code part is one of the important part. We need to. So if you are creating a CS helper, then you need to call here. So it's important.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now we can add the more code block here. We can add one more also, and we can add function block also. Like that. Now we covered the data binding, routing, and component. Let's see the Blazor lifecycle. Blazor component have a number of virtual method we can override to affect the behavior of our application. These methods are executed at different time during a component's lifetime. We change the behavior of our application using Blazor virtual method. The Blazor application provides different synchronized as well as asynchronous lifecycle method. So first, we need to know about synchronized and asynchronous. So anyone have a idea about synchronized and asynchronous?
Synchronous call means like it will complete the process and then it will go on. But when we use asynchronous, it will like kind of do the call and other process like parallelly. And when we use await, it will wait over there for the result, else it will like go on in parallel processing.
Right. So the synchronize is one process will be end, then after second process will be start. In asynchronous, both process will be running parallelly. We have a life cycle method. First is on initialize and on initialize async. Second is on parameter set and on parameter set async. Third is on after render and on after render async. Fourth is state change. Now, first is on initialize and on initialize async. The synchronized and asynchronous version of application method, which gets executed when the component gets initialized. Like on initialized and on initialized method will be executed when component gets initialized. First, on initialized will be executed, then after on initialized async will be executed. We can use load data in both method, and we can use the asynchronous method in on initialize async method. In this snippet, we have two override method. First is on initialize and second is on initialize async. Now, on parameter set and on parameter set async. The synchronized and asynchronous way of setting the parameter when the component receives the parameter from its parent component. Like on parameter set and on parameter set will be executed when component is first initialized. After initialization, the parameter will be changed or updated. Then after on parameter set and on parameter set async will be executed again. In this snippet, we have a two override method. First is on parameter set and second is on parameter set async. Now on after render and on after render async. The synchronized and asynchronous version of application method to perform the additional step like initializing the other component. Like on after render and on after render async will be executed when component first loaded fully populated, then after both method will be executed. So we can use for JavaScript library initialization on both method on after render and on after render async. In this snippet, we have two override method. First is on after render and second is on after render async. Now state has changed. This method notify the component that its state has changed. It is called after any lifecycle method has been called. In this snippet, we have a start counter method. in this function, we have one class timer with 1 minute. Now let's see the demo part of life cycle. First, go to the on initialize component. In function block, we have a two variable and we have a two override method. First is on initialize and second is on initialize async. Now let's see the demo of on initialize component. You know about on initialize and on initialize async. So first component will be loaded, then after on initialize and on initialize async will be called. First on initialize method will be called, then after on initialize async method will be called, and then after we add the other function load data, like load data will be called. Now let's see the on parameter set demo part. Here is the one function block. In this function, we have a variable name and event type. And we have also two override method. First is on parameter set and second is on parameter set async. Now let's see the demo part. You know about on parameter set and on parameter set async. First, both method will be executed when component is first initialized. After initialization, parameter will be changed. Then after both method will be executed again. So let's see the output. I go to on initialize component and uncomment this code. Now rerun the project. Here is the on parameter component. It is the concept of communication from parent to child. Go to on initialize. You know about first on initialize and on initialize async method will be called. Then after on parameter set and on parameter set async will be called. Here is on initialize component and then after on parameter set component. Now I change the parameter in this input. I pass the parameter for on parameter set component. You can see that I pass the parameter. Okay, then on parameter set and on parameter set async method will be called again. Like that. Now on after render. I go to the on after render component. In this function block, we have 4 override method. First is on initialize, second is on initialize async, third is on after render, and fourth is on after render async. Now let's see the output. You know about on after render. First on parameter async, on parameter set and on parameter set async will be executed. Then after on after render and on after render async method will be executed. First component is fully populated. Then after on after render and on after render async will be called. Now let's see again. If I click it, first on initialize method will be called. Then after page will be fully populated. Then after on after render and on after render async method will be called. Now let's see the state has changed. Here is function block. In this function block, we have a one variable count with initialized value 10. And we have one function start countdown. In this function, we have a timer class for a 1 minute and count will be decreased and we print the count value on console. Now let's see the demo. Go to state has changed. Now anyone have an idea for the output? Anyone guess the output? Okay. Now I click the start countdown button. Then after function will be triggered and timer class will be start. Then after count variable will be decreasing. 9, 8, 7, 6. You can see in console, but we cannot get the decrement count value in UI part. So Blazor would not recognize the state change and not refresh the UI. So we can add the state has change method in component. Now I rerun the project. Again, I click the start countdown button and function will be triggered. You can see here 7, 6, 5, 4, like that. Now let's go ahead. So we covered the data binding, routing, component, and Blazor lifecycle, and also covered the communication from parent to child. Now we covered the event callback. So anyone have an idea about event callback? Okay. Event callback class is special Blazor class that can be exposed as a parameter so that component can easily notify consumers when something of interest has occurred. So first parameter will be exposed with event callback, then after component will notify. Once a public property of type event callback has been declared and decorated with the parameter attribute, consuming component can specify in razor markup which method to call when the event is triggered. So first event callback, you can declare the event callback as a publicly and declare the parameter attribute in child class. From parent class, we must add the event handler, then after event will be triggered. Now let's see the flow of event callback. Anyone have idea of flow of event callback? So unmute yourself. Anyone have an idea about this snippet? In this snippet, we have a two component. First is parent and second is child. In child component, we have a one button. Okay. In child component, we have a one button. On click, it is the event type. Then after we have a one event handler product selected. If I click the button, then product selection function will be triggered. In function, we have mouse event args. The mouse event arg, it is the information information about mouse event. Then after we notify to parent component, but we must add the event callback class with parameter attribute. Then after invoke async function will be triggered and parent component will be notified with event handler. Now let's see the demo of event callback. I go to event callback folder, then after child component. Routing is not a necessary for child component. In view part, we have a button with event click event type with specific function. Here is the code block. In code block, we have a one method. Okay. Now I click the click here. Then after function will be trigger and mouse event arg. It is the information about mouse event. Now we notify to parent component. So we must add the event callback. Okay. Then after invoke the parent component. Now we go to parent component. Here is we define the child component with his parameter of event callback, callback. Then after we define the event handler method. Then after event from child method will be triggered and message will be updated. So let's see the output of event callback. Here is the parent component view and below of line, we have a child component view. If I click it, then after parent component will be triggered. Then after function will be triggered and notify this event callback to parent component. Then after function will be triggered. Then after message will be updated. Let's see. We get the X and Y coordinator from child component. So anyone have a doubt on data binding, routing, component, event lifecycle, and event callback?
No question.
Okay, that's a great.
So thank you for involving actively in this meetup. I hope guys now you all are aware of the basic of Blazor. I am sharing the quiz form link on the chat box and will the feedback form later. In between, if anyone worked or working with Blazor, please put your point of view of Blazor. Here I sharing the link on our chat box. Anyone have knowledge about Blazor or you worked or working with Blazor? So you all are open to give a point of view of Blazor. Also, I am sharing the feedback form on chat box.